Today we're going to help you troubleshoot and give you some things to try to fix if your car amplifier has power but it's not producing any sound through your speakers or sub. Step 1. The first thing you're going to want to do is check if the protect light or LED on your amplifier is on. If your protect light is on, you're going to want to watch this video we have here, which helps troubleshoot what to do if your amp goes into protect mode. Step 2. The second thing you're going to want to check is to make sure that the RCA cables that are plugged into your amplifier are plugged into the RCA input of your amplifier. If you have them plugged into the RCA output of the amplifier, it will not get any sound from your head unit or receiver. Step 3. The third thing to check is if the RCA cable that is going from the amplifier to the head unit / receiver is in good condition. We recommend having a spare RCA cable to test with. Another way to test if your RCA cables are good is to tap on the RCA cable while your finger is slightly moist while your whole system is powered on. If you hear a buzz or a hum while you're tapping, the signal is passing through to your amp and out of your speakers, which means next you'll have to check your head unit. Step 4. Check the RCA cables that are plugged into your receiver / head unit. Make sure you plug into the preamp output that is red and white. In many cases, we have seen people plug the RCA into the RCA video of their receiver, which is yellow. If this is the case, just plug the RCA into the proper connections with the red going to the red and the white going into the white output. Step 5. If you are using the high-level inputs on your amplifier to get signal from the speaker wire in your vehicle to your amp, make sure that you have the speaker wire correctly wired to the harness for your high-level input. Double check the user manual of your amplifier and wiring guide for your harness to make sure you correctly wire to avoid any cutouts or dropouts. Step 6. The next thing to check is the speaker wire that is going from the amplifier to your speakers or your subwoofer. If the amplifier is in bridge mode, then make sure you connected the speaker wire to the proper terminals, which should be indicated on your amplifier or in the amplifier's user manual. Step 7. You need to really make sure the speaker wire is securely tightened into the speaker terminals of your speakers or subs and the terminals of your amplifier. Make sure that the bare wire is catching onto the terminal and not onto the rubber sleeve of your speaker wire. You also want to do this for the power lines you're using to power the amp. Step 8. Make sure that you are using the right gauge wires for your speaker wire and the power lines for the signal to pass through properly. If you use the wrong gauge wire that's very thin, it can rip or tear easily. And make sure your speaker wire isn't pinched or cut, otherwise it will not run any signal. If you have spare speaker wire, then you can test this issue with new speaker wire and see if that solves your issue. You can also visually inspect your current speaker wire. Step 9. Make sure the positive and negative speaker wires are running to the positive and negative speaker terminals of the amplifier. If they are reversed, then the speaker will play no sound or very little sound. Step 10. Next, you're going to want to check the input level or gain on the amplifier and or your bass remote knob. If the gain is set to 0, then turn it up slowly. If you need help on setting the gain of your amplifier, check out this other video that we've made. Step 11. Another thing to check is to make sure that the battery in your car you are using to power your amplifier is fully charged so that it powers it properly and produces the proper amount of signal. If your amplifier has a voltmeter, you can use that to gauge the amp's voltage, or you can check it using a multimeter. Typically, you want 12 volts or higher to properly power your amplifier. Step 12. On many head units and receivers, there is a setting that can disable your RCA outputs. This setting is usually under the fader / balance controls. On your receiver, navigate to the fader balance controls and find the setting to enable your front, rear, and sub preamp outputs. Sometimes your head unit will start with only the front and rear outputs enabled, but not the sub output, which would cause your amp to have no sound. Step 13. If you're not getting any signal out of your sub output of your head unit, make sure to go into the sound settings of your head unit and activate the sub output. You also want to check the crossover settings and the gain level output of your sub output. If a signal is coming out of the front and rear outputs, but not the sub output, this means the sub output port could potentially be defective. So hopefully this video showed you guys how to troubleshoot some issues if your amp has power but is not playing any sound. But if you are still experiencing issues, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. We'll see you guys in the next one.